Kurt's opinion. I want you to hear what the actual federal government said. So this post, let me pull it up here, was by Mr. Should the submittal not meet the thresholds in the limitation clause, the proposal should be considered not technically acceptable. Talks about the similarly situated, which you and I were the first one to discuss on YouTube, and people want to come back to me for their justification for using similarly situated.
Right.
I just got tired of arguing with them. I like, whatever. Whatever. It's going to be all of their non-assuming students who chose to believe them ignorantly and blindly who are going to be caught in the crosshairs. Welcome to my channel. My name is Dr. Curtis A. Merriweather Jr. You can call me Dr. Kurt. In 2020, as many of you guys know, I was named a game changer by the White House Policy Advisor for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And I want to serve as your government contracting coach. Now, the purpose of this channel is to educate entrepreneurs. Now, most of you all know me from the government contracting space, but I just consider myself an entrepreneur in general. I just love the art and craft, art and science of entrepreneurship. Now, what we do on this channel is through education, consultation, and training support services. Our goal is to help lower your learning curve and to accelerate your business profitability by sharing advanced educational principles, sharing practical experience, and lessons learned based on a 27 plus year journey of entrepreneurship experience. Now, I haven't been an entrepreneur for all 27 years, but I have been for more than 15. I've been in this space since I was 17 years of age. Now, on your screen, you're going to see my URL. Now, please notice that my Instagram URL has changed. So please make note. I oftentimes get Instagram messages and DMs from you all. You're more than welcome to continue that. I love hearing your feedback. Now on the screen, you're going to see our teaching platform, which is 8figuregovcon.com. That is our teaching platform. You know, we have a couple flagship programs. You can go directly to our course store library at 8figuregovcon.com /store. You can go directly to our course store library. Now, in January 2nd, 2024, we're going into the new year. I will be doing the first information session of 2024. I do these every month. This is a free session, but registration is required. Like I said again, it is free, but registration will be required. That's going to be January 2nd. We're going to kick off at about 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, on that weekend, which is going to be January the 6th, at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to have our first live virtual boot camp of 2024. You're going to want to definitely go to our course store library again, and you're going to want to register. I do mean it. You want to register for our live virtual boot camp. I'm going to give information in this boot camp that, quite frankly, you haven't heard on any of my social media platforms or in the curated content that's already housed in our teaching platform. This is going to be a game-changing session that's going to accelerate, transform, and just put you on the right path going into 2024 in your government contracting journey. Okay. Before I get into my content and my as you can see the title in the video heading. Before I get into that title for today, I want you to like, I want you to share, and I want you to subscribe to this channel. Hit the notification bell so anytime I produce new content, you will be notified most promptly. As many of you know, I produce content on a weekly basis. Most of that content is released on Thursday, but between Thursday and Saturday of each week, you will see new content come from me. All righty. I got a great topic for you all today. We are going to be revisiting. In this video, we're going to revisit a lightning rod of a topic. If you go and you look at my YouTube library, you'll see that I have done a couple videos on Middleman. And now I vowed in the last video, maybe more than a year ago, I don't know, I got to go back and kind of look at the timeline, but a while ago, I did a video on Middleman. And I brought a guest along the very first time we did this conversation. And quite frankly, I did not expect the topic to be nowhere nearly as controversial as this topic has been. However, there was some churn in the internet streets right before Christmas. And I gave my friend a call and said, hey, we got to talk about this again because there have been some developments. There's been some churn in the contracting officer community. So I'm going to invite my guest and my friend to the stage. He's not a stranger to you all here at all. You've seen him before. And so I want to welcome none other than my friend, Guy Timberlake, to the YouTube audience. Hey, Guy, good to see you, brother.
Brother Kurt, good to see you too. How you doing?
Man, I'm well. As you know, we had, matter of fact, you and I jumped on a phone call last week. There was some churn in the YouTube, well, not YouTube, there was some churn in the LinkedIn streets. There was some contracting officers who start talking about middleman strategy. Now, you and I foresaw this. We said it was just a matter of time before the government contracting, contracting officer, contracting specialist community start talking about it. And that time has arrived. So for those who may not have seen Guy Timberlake before, Guy Timberlake and I have known each other for almost 2 decades at this point now. And Guy leads an organization called the American Small Business Coalition. They're doing great work educating the government contracting community, primarily in the Washington National Capital Region, the DMV specifically, doing great work, doing Guy's work right there in the DMV, helping government contractors one day at a time. So, Guy, welcome to the platform. Always good to see you, brother.
Good to be back. Good to be back. I'm looking forward to this one.
Hey, it should be a good conversation. So, you know, what we're going to do today, this is the third time I've talked about Middleman.
Yep.
On YouTube. And based on some things we learned, and I've talked about it once with Guy, once on my own, and now bringing Guy back to talk about it again. We want to address, before we even jump into the LinkedIn post that was posted on LinkedIn, and I'm going to get the information so that viewers can go and see that content themselves on LinkedIn if they're interested. But before we even jump into that, we want to just kind of address some key terms and definitions, because one of the things that we learned in our last conversation, we found that there was not a common lexicon. When I looked at the comments that came in, oftentimes the audience we were not on the same page with the words and terminology that we were using. So before we jump into what the contracting officer said, we're going to share his post. You're going to be able to see it on the screen. You'll be able to read it for yourself. You'll be able to go and look at the original post if you choose to. Before we jump into that, one of the things I want to do is I want to jump into some of the key terms that we're being used, because I'm finding there's a lot of confusion around terms that I thought were pretty straightforward. They're not. And I recognize that everyone who watches our YouTube channel are in different phases in their government contracting journey. There was a day when Guy and I didn't understand all the terms either. So before we jump into the post, we want to just make sure we're on the same page from a definition, common lexicon, ontology, whatever big fancy words you want to use, to make sure that when we're talking apples and apples. Is that fair, Guy?
That works.
So the very first term that we're going to talk about is set aside. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give them the textbook definition of set asides. We'll have a little bit of banter back and forth, but the goal of this one is to really try to put this discussion to bed once and for all. It probably won't.
No, not yet.
It probably won't. There are going to still be some folks who are going to come back and say, you guys know what you're talking about. They're going to dismiss the hundreds of millions of dollars you've helped your clients win, guy. They're gonna dismiss my own personal track record and the White House accolades I've received, and they say I've been doing this for 5 minutes and I know more than you. Because
Absolutely.
my favorite social media influencer disagree, and we know that's gonna come, and it doesn't bother us at all.
Hey, it's all right.
But we know
We
it's
can
coming.
we can only help those we can help.
We can only help those we can help, guys. So let's start with some couple quick definitions. You say, well, first of all, the purpose of the set asides is to hopefully help level the playing field for small business. Now, the government limits competition for certain small businesses. Now, most of the time we talk about these small business set asides, guy, everyone immediately goes to the 8A, the Hub Zone, the SDVOSB. Okay, for my people who are new, government contracting is acronym heavy. So SDVOSB, service disabled, veteran owned small business, or VOSB, veteran owned small business, or WOSB, woman owned small business, or EDWOSB, economically disadvantaged woman owned small businesses. When we talk about set asides, that's where most people go. They do not realize that small business is a set aside in and of itself, or SDB, a small disadvantaged business. Now, for those who may be again new, an 8A company, when they graduate from the 8A program, there may no longer be an 8A, but they are classified as an SDB if they're still below certain thresholds. SDB being small disadvantaged business. Now, set asides come in two categories. And me and Guy had a good pre-conversation regarding this. So I'm going to start with the easy one. We're going to talk about competitive set-asides. Then there's this thing called a rule of two. When at least two small businesses can perform the work, the government set-asides contracts exclusively for small business. We talk about competitive. This is when you got to actually submit a proposal, and there's some type of competition. Then we have what we call sole source set-aside contracts. These contracts are issued without a competitive bidding process. Typically, there's only one source, in air quotes, that can fulfill this requirement. Now, the sole source is subjective, and guys going to tell you what this rule is not valid, but at the discretion of the contracting officer. Now, typically in sole sources, we're talking about typically the 8As or even a hub zone. And there's normally what we call a J&A, a justification and authorization. Now, in a lot of instances, I can't say majority, even though I guess I could say a majority of instances, they are subjective. But when are those contracts not subjective?
So basically, when you look at the statutes that are being used within the contracting domain, a lot of times the the sole source non-competitive buys are being determined, and I believe the authority exists with the contracting officer. However, there are some that can precede the contracting officer. And so when you start getting into things like mobilization as one of the reasons the government can do, again, other than float open competition, to my knowledge, that does not fall on the contracting officer. Urgent compelling need is one that, again, I don't believe falls on the contracting officer. That can be justified, through different channels, starting with the customer before the package gets to contracting. So there are several out there that will basically move that way. But when you talk about the set asides or the socioeconomic justifications, those are typically tied to the contracting officer.
All righty. Okay, guy. So we talked about very briefly what is a set aside contract. We talked about sole source versus competitive set aside contracts. This information, you can find it if you go to the SBA.gov website. I'll put the link in the description box below so you can go and you can fact check this information on your own. Okay, guy. So we talked
So,
very
sir,
briefly. Yeah, we're gonna.
yep. So
We're
I'm,
gonna.
I'm gonna add
We're,
one more. I'm gonna add one
okay,
thing in
go ahead.
real quick, right? And
Go
so
ahead.
on set asides, so we were talking about this before, and so if we look at the total dollars that the U.S. government says they obligated during fiscal year 2022, so we just wrapped up 2023, but the final numbers are not in for that as of yet. But if you look at 2022, the number of dollars obligated by the government is 694, I believe it's 694 billion, still shows in FPDS right now. The number of dollars that were actually set aside for small business concerns was not the 164 billion that the government listed on this SBA scorecard. And part of that reason is that 30 billion of that was not set aside. It was dollars won by small business without the use of a set aside designation. Another part of that, and another significant part of that money, about 7 billion, was actually subcontracts through Department of Energy listed as prime contracts, and that's because it's under their FFRDC program, Federally Funded Research Development Program, where it's a prime contractor working as the U.S. government, issuing contracts to small businesses, but those contracts are technically subcontracts, but they're listed, and you can read this under the language in the SBA scorecard of MRO, I believe, or maintenance and repair dollars showing up under Department of Energy. Think of Sandia Labs, Los Alamos, places like that. So in the scheme of things, the dollars that were set aside are only about 120 billion a year out of 700 billion. So I wanted to put that up there.
No. That's good. No. Thank you. Let's keep moving. So we're talking about some key terms. Next term we want to talk about, we're going to dig into the FAR, and then we're going to show the LinkedIn post from a very well respected contracting officer. Okay, next term we want to talk about simplified acquisition procedures. Okay, simplified acquisition procedures. So what I'm going to do again, I want to give you guys the formal definition, and then guys gonna chime in. Now, the simplified acquisition procedures are government procurement procedures that aim to reduce the administrative burden and time of awarding procurements below a certain dollar threshold. Now, this contracting method is again used to reduce the amount of work the government must undertake to evaluate an offer. Is used to purchase relatively simple services and supply requirements. Now, the simplified acquisition procedures purpose is to avoid unnecessary burdens for agencies and contractors. Number two, to improve opportunities for small business. Number three, promote economy and efficiency in contracting. And number four, to reduce the administrative cost. Now, the buying methods are traditionally through what we call BPAs, or blanket purchase agreements, government-wide purchase cards or micro purchases, and purchase orders are the primary buying methods or vehicles used. Now, again, you can reference the simplified acquisition procedures in FAR Part 2 and FAR Part 13. Anything you want to chime on to that, guy?
Oh, absolutely. Come on, Kurt. You know me on this one, okay? I mean, look, I was a young pup in the business when these came online back in the early '90s. So simplified acquisitions are one of my favorite topics. It's an often overlooked opportunity by companies, new and experienced. It is the single type of purchase done by the government that can boast about year-over-year growth since 2009, averaging more than $1 billion a year in increased obligations almost every year. We're up to 27 billion for the last fiscal year, and that number may still go up even more. But here's the point, though. So you've got a couple things. People know about micro purchases, and those are a form of simplified acquisition, but these are buys done that are up to $10,000, always paid with a purchase card, the Smart Pay card. And then you've got everything from 10,000 to a $250,000. And those are the most well-known simplified acquisitions that people are used to hearing about. What they may not know is that a big chunk of those come out under $25,000, and they may not and are not required to be listed on sam.gov or any other government-wide point of entry. In that case, you need to know the buyer. You need to have a relationship, be aware of who they are, what they buy, and be able to reach out and touch them, phone call, email, whatever they prefer. 25,000 and over up to a $250,000 is usually going to be synopsized. It's going to come out on sam.gov contract opportunities. It might be on an existing contract vehicle, not the GSA schedule, because they're not called simplified acquisitions on the schedule. Those are FAR Part 8 versus FAR 13. What people may not know is how much of that small business gets and how big they can get. The government has an exception to the rule that was made law. It was codified, I think, 6 years ago. It was a temporary program every year for years and years, till the year they forgot to authorize it, and people apparently lost their minds, and they had to go back and make it permanent. And that allows the government to go above $250,000 for certain commercial items. Commercial items can be products or services, and that allows them to go to $7 million. And then if there's a situation like, let's say, a pandemic or the conflict in Ukraine or so forth, humanitarian missions, they can actually go up to 15 million on those types of buys. Again, I mentioned there are 27 million for this year to date. We'll know December 31st what the final number is for the overall spend. Small business wins about 55% of these. So there's about 16, 17 billion dollars that small businesses are winning, and it's about 58,000 small businesses that are splitting that share. It is a great opportunity. It's something you need to get smart about, understand which customers are using them. You don't want to go try to convince someone to buy that way. This is a cultural thing. Every organization that uses simplified acquisitions is already doing it. And so go to them versus trying to change somebody else's mind.
Amazing. Hey, we're gonna keep it rolling.
Keep it rolling.
They got a lot. We're getting a lot of value. Next term, we want to talk about. Now we're finna get into the nitty gritty. Remember, we're still talking about this middleman strategy. We thought it was important to lay a contextual foundation. We want to make sure that we're on the same page when we use these terms. So the next term we want to talk about is limitations of subcontracting. This is outlined in the FAR. So again, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give you some basic terminology again. Everyone wants to ask me, Kirk, what is the FAR? Dr. Kirk, what is the FAR subcontracting clause? And they want to tell me that limitations of subcontracting clause does not apply. They want to tell me, I know you're not right because I'm doing basically the opposite of what you said do. It does not mean that I'm not right. In October of last year, 2022, me and Guy, I think, did a video. I didn't look, but it was around the winter time. About this time last year, we did a video talking about Middleman for the very first time on YouTube. And so that clause, FAR Part 52-.219-20-14. I can't talk today. FAR 52.219-14. This is October 2022. The latest revision comes out. The limitations on subcontracting does not apply to any simplified acquisition. This is where most people stop. However, it does apply to any award made using a social economic set-aside status, regardless of dollar amount. Me and Guy said this early before we got recording. Most of your YouTube and social media influencers stop at the first sentence. They stop with limitations on subcontracting does not apply to simplified acquisition. However, comma, it does apply to any award regardless of dollar amount made using a social economic status. Now, the limitations of subcontracting rule applies in two situations. When a contract is set aside for small business that has a value above the simplified acquisition threshold, number one. Number two, when a contract is set aside or sole source to any social economic category. Now, outlined in that far subpart, it calls out 8A, SDVOSB. Again, SDVOSB is service disabled, veteran owned small business. VOSB, veteran owned small business. WOSB, woman owned small business, or EDWOSB, economically disadvantaged woman owned small business, or hub zone participant. What many of your YouTube and social media influencers fail to understand is that small business set aside is a set aside as well. Let me say this again. Small business is a set aside too. It's a set aside too, guy. But they wouldn't tell me, I'm not pursuing an 8A sole source or 8A competitor. You
Kurt,
still listen.
let me look. I got to say it again. All right, I'm citing last Boy Scout when I do this. So for everybody in the cheap seats, all right, that did not hear this, any contract, regardless of value, set aside for a small business concern that is small business, 8A, woman-owned, EDWSB, OSB, hub zone, on down the line, any small business concern is subject to limitations on subcontracting.
Including a small business set aside.
Every type of small business concern, absolutely. There's a self-performance requirement, and I love the comment that we're going to get to in Colin's post. I mean, literally, if you are one of those people that is opted to just believe the whole middleman theory, there's that whole thing about if it seems too easy, it probably is. Well, let me tell you, all right, this is one of those. So if you are a small business and you go in this contract, you're going to sub all the work out to somebody else to do the work while you just sip, Mai Tais and submit invoices on the beach. You're going to see in a minute what a person in the government said about this. That means the government didn't need you.
Oh, no. They're going to tell me about they similarly situated. They're going to tell us about that. I'm using a similarly situated firm. And I love the government's response to that.
You got to show this, Kurt.
We were the first ones to talk about similarly situated on YouTube, to my knowledge. But I have people in the comments trying to school me about, well, I'm doing similarly situated. I say, bro, sis,
Kurt,
who's the first person? Guy and I were the first people on YouTube. Even the people who were teaching, quote unquote, middleman learned similarly situated from us.
Oh, Kurt, we were doing this in Clubhouse during the pandemic, having these conversations, trying to help these people who were just drinking that Kool-Aid. I mean, and it was just unbelievable. And so, let me collect myself here for a second.
Hey, I'm gonna keep moving because regardless of what we say, they're gonna believe their said influence. But for the folks who do this method, I'm gonna tell those folks who still decide to do and not listen to Guy and I, we gonna tell you how we gonna get your contract taken from you.
Yep, absolutely.
We gonna tell you today. So for those who continue to use this method, you're getting ready to waste your time and money, because if anybody who listens to Kurt and Guy do what we say do, the government gonna snatch your contract. Because the only time sometimes you can stop bad behavior, you got to show people how to combat the crazy foolishness on YouTube. So for those who decide to not listen to Guy and I, and there's someone who listens to Guy and Kurt, Dr. Kurt, on social media, and they do what I say do, We're going to tell them how to tell the government to snatch that contract from you legally and in accordance with the FAR. So for those who decide to not listen, go right ahead. Because if somebody come across this video and do what we say, the government's going to snatch your contract. And all that money you thought you was going to make is going to be gone. Moving on, let's go ahead and talk about this key organization, and then we're going to jump into Collins Post. So
Absolutely.
the next term we want to talk about is the Government Accountability Office. Now, many of you may have never heard of GAO. See, for those who have been in this game for a minute and you've had to protest a bid, meaning you put in a contract, you didn't win, you requested a debrief, you found out that the government did not follow the rules outlined in the FAR, you can do what we call a bid protest. Now, the organization that oversees those protests are the GAO. One of them, some of them can be small business, and there's a whole process for that. But in a lot of instances, it's GAO, the Government Accountability Office. So let's talk very briefly. Again, we're getting some terms out, and then we're going to pull this post up. The Government Accountability Office is an independent, nonpartisan government agency within the legislative branch that provides auditing, evaluation, and investigative services for the United States. You can go Google this, GAO.gov. GAO, the Government Accountability Office, their core mission values are accountability, integrity, and reliability. It is known as the Congressional Watchdog. GAO provides Congress, the heads of the executive agencies, and the public with timely, fact-based, nonpartisan information that can be used to improve government and save taxpayers billions of dollars. The GAO work is done at the request of congressional committees or subcommittees, or it's a statutorily required by public law or committee reports per their congressional protocols. This is a presidential appointed position. The agency is headed by the Comptroller General of the United States, and that's who basically, that is a presidential appointee confirmed by the Senate. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure we had some key terms out here. Now, you ready to dig? Anything else you want to say, Guy, about GAO, or are you ready to jump into Collins Post?
Really, really quick. In the scheme of things, if you are in a situation where you find yourself disagreeing with a procedure or a decision that an agency made on a requirement, on a solicitation, you can hopefully first talk to the agency and try to resolve it through meaningful conversation. If you don't get adequate resolution that way, you can then do an agency level protest directly with that agency. And then if for some reason you still don't feel as if you've gotten adequate, satisfactory response, outcome from that, then you can take it to the GAO level. So that's above the agency. And I will tell you, it is, I'm an old schooler, came from, doing this back in the 80s and 90s. And that was one of the things that we liked to do the least. And not for any other reason, is because we understood the impact of what it meant to a federal agency. It would shut a program down, or at least keep it in status quo until this was resolved. And so let me offer this. I'm not saying we were doing it right back then, because there is going to be a time where a protest is the only approach left for companies to take. The challenge with today is that there are a lot of companies who are now doing what we call protest as a win strategy. All right. That's never good. It doesn't help anyone else. So what I would say is, if this is something that you're being confronted with, get some help, get the professionals, get mentors who can talk to you about what the recourse is, what the channels are, maintain a communication channel with the buyers and customers that you're doing business with. And if you can, try to avoid this. But if you find yourself in the position of a protest, understand what's involved, what the timing is of having to pull the trigger on it, and basically do it for the right reasons, so that it is something that really does have a positive outcome that maybe even helps the government with corrective actions or something like that. My 2 cents.
No. That's really good. All right, well, guys, this is why they came here. So I'm gonna get ready to read the post. In this video, I'm gonna also post the actual LinkedIn post. You're gonna see it on the screen here in a second. But without further ado, I want to go ahead and I want to jump into the post because I don't want you to hear Kurt's opinion. I want you to hear what the actual federal government said. So this post, let me pull it up here, was by Mr. Colin McTagg. Colin McTagg is let me get his title correct here. Colin's title is, he works for the U.S. Army Contracting Command. He works for the 413th CSB SPONCOIC. Okay, so he actually is in the contracting shop. You can go in, you can go to my LinkedIn and you'll be able to see it, but I'm going to read his post. And he had a lot of heavy hitters actually in this post who was actually siding with him. We got a battalion commander for the 919th Contracting Battalion at the Mission Installation Contracting Command. We got another contracting officer from the 902nd Contracting Battalion. You got a detachment sergeant. So there's some heavy hitters that were weighing in on what Colin is saying. But I'm going to read the post, and you're going to be able to see it on your screen. I've been pulled into 2 conversations in as many weeks about hashtag Middleman proposals submitted in response to solicitations. He says, bottom line, he's talking to his contracting officer brethren at various levels of the government. He says, bottom line, read and understand FAR 52-219-14. The GAO, we talked about the Government Accountability Office, has repeatedly stated that compliance with the clause is a contract administration issue and that proposals received are presumed to be compliant with the clause. Let me pause for a moment before we keep moving in this discussion. The government is assuming that you are compliant. This is why people tell me, well, I haven't went to jail. The government assumes that you are compliant with this response. This is why you haven't found yourself in jail. But we're going to tell the listeners here how to move forward with this if you feel like you have been a victim of your contract not being awarded to you because someone was playing middleman strategy. The government assumes that you are compliant with that FAR limitations of subcontracting clause. So we are in a self-regulated industry. Anything you want to say before we keep moving, guys? Because the plot is getting ready to thicken, and especially my similarly situated people. All right, guys, I'm finna go ahead and let's just keep moving. Next part of this says agencies have 2 paths to walk in pre-award. The contractor is of contractor responsibility. A company, and it gives an example. A company has 2 employees, but has put in a proposal for a large food service labor contract. Oh, they love to do this middleman strategy with the food labor contracts, the laundry service contracts, and the heating and AC contracts. And it says the proposal is silent, yet presumed compliant with FAR 52-219-14. This is a contractor responsibility question that involves consulting the SBA. Let me say this. the federal government presumes compliance and responsible behavior from small business contractors. That's number one. The federal government assumes that you are compliant. Anything you want to say, guys, before we keep parsing down through this post?
And all I can say, Curtis, is for every person that has told you and me that they weren't doing anything wrong or that the government hadn't come after them, let's just say this: ignorance of the law. Okay, saying you don't know is not an excuse, which is why Kurt said we're going to make sure we school all our people on how to come after that. So if you're out there playing that game, well, we and our people are coming for you.
Hey, the jig is getting ready to be up because now I'm finna show folks how to report you so that you might find yourself in an unfavorable situation. And so for those who continue to teach this method, I hope you stop. But see, the part about this that really bothers me is the instructors are not going to be the one caught up in this. It's going to be all of their non-assuming students who chose to believe them ignorantly and blindly who are going to be caught in the crosshairs of this. And you and I both have already heard horror stories around people who are implementing the strategy. And so because the FAR wasn't strong enough for a lot of people, I made another video and said, okay, FAR aside, here are some business reasons why you should avoid this strategy. We're not even going to argue. I even had some fake attorneys come after me, and I said I didn't want to fight with them no more, guy. I asked one of them, what law firm do you work for? Because if you told me what law firm you was with, I already know that you have no clue what you're talking about. Do not be sending your ambulance chasing lawyers who know nothing about government contracting law. Do not be dropping me no comments because you don't understand how to read the FAR.
Look, if you can't spell the FAR, if you can't spell the FAR, you can't play here as an attorney.
Right. But you got some fake attorneys who say, I read it. But you don't know about that. Oh, we're finna talk about the case here in a minute. Let me keep moving, guys. Let me keep moving. All right, let's keep reading. Again, you can see this on your screen. So you can see exactly what I'm seeing. So, third paragraph. The second way is if the government asks the contractor, this is what's going to get them, this is what's going to mess them up, guy. The second way is if the government asks the contractor to provide its share of the labor excluding subcontractor. They want to see employees on your team, not consultants, not 1099, not subcontractors. They want you to provide the share of labor excluding subcontractor. How many people are in the company doing this work? Should the submittal not meet the thresholds in the limitation clause, the proposal should be considered not technically acceptable. We know that when pursuing prime contracts, we know that one of the things you got to pass is technical acceptability. Another one may be your management plan. But if you deem non-technical, you're going to lose your work. The federal government can request, this is me talking, the federal government can request proof of labor distribution between prime contract employees versus subcontracting employees to determine whether there is adherence to the limitation of subcontracting clause in accordance with FAR Part 52-219-14. I don't know how much clearer they got to be. Number one, they said, we want to see, we're assuming that the prime contract is responsible. But they said, number two, we want you to be able to prove, the contract officer can make you prove that you are in fact in accordance with the limitations of subcontracting clause. Anything you want to add, guy?
I'm just going to say it again. If it's within the simplified acquisition threshold, it is not exempt. If the government awards you a contract set aside for small business, woman-owned, 8A, hub zone, veteran-owned, all the above, if it's set aside, this applies to you. And this is the mistake. And it's what Kurt said before. All the people that we were talking to back in Clubhouse and now the ones that are out there now who migrated to YouTube and even a few popping up on LinkedIn now are out there. They stopped listening after the line that said does not apply to simplified acquisitions. They did not continue reading to see that it applies regardless of dollar amount if it is set aside. That's where people are getting in trouble right now.
That's where they're getting in trouble. And one of the things the federal government's doing now, they started to play games with y'all. But see, they don't even see the games being played, guy. But let me keep moving because I want to, because this same post by our good friend Colin talks about the similarly situated, which you and I were the first one to discuss on YouTube, and people want to come back to me for their justification for using similarly situated.
Right.
I just got tired of arguing with them. I like whatever, whatever. So let's keep it moving. I'm continuing to read. We're into our fourth paragraph, and it says, "Why does this matter?" This is Colin talking. Congress is interested in creating and maintaining strong small business economy. A contractor who pays themselves and subcontractors all the work is against the spirit of what the program tries to do. Also, if the subcontractor was similarly situated, in quotes, then the U.S. government could have just saved money by going directly to them. And you know what, guy? What's very interesting right now is in the subcontracting community, the subcontractors are getting smart. And they're now asking these unassuming primes questions. And I'm finding where the subs are giving these egregious quotes to the prime and going around, because it's not hard to go on sam.gov. If you got a little bit of detail, it's not hard to go and say, I'm gonna go put a proposal in myself. And I'm seeing that happening more and more and more, because the subcontracting community doesn't want to be abused either. And this is a form of abuse where you take someone's effort and put this huge markup on it and say, well, I'm just going to give you peanuts on the dollar. I'm going to try to do all of the work. I'm going to sub out all the work. This is not a viable business strategy, by the way, especially in government contracting. Anything you want to add before we keep moving? Right on through this post.
I just want to see this part get put up. That's all. Hey, I want to see this up there because what we're dealing with now, you're right. We've been saying this for a while and been trying to help people, in a sincere way. And we see what some of the, effect of this has been. People going out there, the middleman, evangelists out there, tamping down, getting their message out there, creating all these disciples. And now we've got somebody from the government who's been in a contracting authority position for the last 13 years, all right, not commissioned officer in charge multiple times. And so we figure he probably knows what he's talking about.
But no, their contracting specialist told them that they were right.
Yeah. Let me tell you what. Okay. So I love what he's doing here in this post because, and see, this is the part I didn't see the first time. He's actually put up a little warning bell for all of his brothers and sisters who have been doing overseas contracting. And he's basically saying, so when you come back stateside, familiarize yourself with the FAR Part 19 because, well, overseas, they have different rules that they play by because small business subcontracting over there looks different. When we are in a host nation at a military base or an embassy, we have pacts created with those countries to do work with their businesses in support. Now, it may be outside the wire kind of stuff, but the rules, they don't even have to be in SAM at that point. So when these contracting officers come back stateside, it's a little adjustment they have to make. And one of their own is just saying, hey, just so you know what's up. All right, we got these people out here doing this middleman thing. This is how you spot it.
Right.
So it's now making it around internal to the contracting profession.
Right. But see, you were at a conference because we talked about it a while back, and there was some very big names. I don't have permission to use their names. There were some very high-ranking federal officials, and this question is coming up a lot. And just give us, and we'll keep going through the post, but just give us a couple sound bites what these high-level federal executives were saying on that panel discussion regarding Middleman?
A couple of them who had actually been in some of the clubhouse rooms when some of these discussions were going on, and I didn't find that out till I actually talked to them. Basically, we're telling people, one, it's an easy way to get yourself suspended or debarred from working with the U.S. government. It is a quick way to get yourself, brought up on false claims. There's so many different repercussions that can come from this. I know people who've been prosecuted over this stuff
they don't believe
by the government.
They don't believe us because they favorite middleman promoter is not in jail.
Right, exactly. Well, and you know what? Because and Kurt, this is the other part. All right, so I got to put this out here now, okay? Because see, you done set me up for this. So the issue is the reason why they won't go to jail is because many of them, potentially most of them, are not and have not ever sold to the U.S. government before. If they using their own language, they would end up going to jail. But we said this before, all right? We've been in this community now, respectively, 25 and 35 years, all right? We've been around. We know stuff. We know people. The people that are out there making the most noise about federal contracting have the least relationship with federal contracting.
Yeah, true. And it might be one exception I can think of that person is actually really practicing in the space, but they don't even really push this that much.
No, and that's right. They're not. This is not their thing. All right, they know what it is, but that's not their thing. That's different. No, this is specifically about those who are out there telling people to go win a contract, go sit on the beach, in your big old vacation home in Belize or Cancun or whatever, and just chill and let somebody else do the work.
Right. This is not a viable. But I'm gonna keep reading the email. Let me go back to the post, guy. I'm gonna go back to the post and I'm gonna just keep reading. Let's go. We're in another paragraph. He says, "Why am I on this? In researching my answer, I discovered quite a bit of YouTubers advocating for this strategy, promising big money. If you're an offerer, talking about if you're a prime, you're putting in proposals, you are putting yourself at risk by not complying with the contract, in my opinion." He can't give an official position for where he works. Okay. For the KOKS, that's the acronym for contracting officer, contracting specialist out there that spent much of their time contracting OCONUS, which means outside the continental U.S. Familiarize yourself with FAR Part 19 when you come back to the States, and of course, reach out to your SBA reps. And since while down the YouTube rabbit hole, I did find one of my oldest connections, Curtis Merriweather Jr, PhD, fighting the good fight with great informational videos from an industry perspective. So props to him. So he gave me a shout out. So he sounds like he agreed with the information that Guy and I are putting out in the world. That's what it sounds like.
I got to go back to one line. You ready?
Okay.
Because
ready.
This is the part that's going to just kind of bake it in for us. If you're an offerer, you are putting yourself at risk by not complying with the contract, in my opinion. What is he saying there? If you are winning a contract and you are leveraging this middleman theory, you are violating terms of your contract, because the terms are in the contract about what you can and can't do. FAR 52 is in there. All right, FAR 19 references are in there. It's all in there telling you about what you can and can't do. So by knowingly using this middleman theory, you are willfully violating terms of contracts you're winning with the U.S. government.
Oh, but there's just one coach out there. I'm not going to call the coach name or talk about
I will.
Well, it's just one FAR clause that's not in there.
Right. Right.
See, you got to look, you got to go through the FAR clauses, and if there's one FAR clause is not in there, then you can use this strategy. Come on, y'all. Stop.
Right. Right. Again, you got to hear it. You got to listen to what's going on around you. If there's enough people, on both sides of the aisle saying this is probably problematic, you might want to at least slow your roll just a bit and get more information. But if you don't adopt the trust but verify approach to doing business, especially in this arena, you're going to get hurt. All right. Financially, mentally, whatever it is, you're going to get hurt. All right. Don't take everything at face value. You need to find out for yourself. That's how you build knowledge. You've heard Kurt and I talk about this, and we have not changed our message since we started this conversation. Now you have information coming from officials in the government who are the ones responsible for creating the approaches the government uses and then ultimately awarding these contracts. And now you're hearing it from some of these folks too. Not the first time. I've been talking to them for years about this kind of stuff since we heard it the first time. All right. We had conversations. I made new connections with friends in government on Clubhouse because we were talking about all the stuff going with the whole middleman. So this is not new at all. What's new is middleman. I want everyone to think for a second. If you've been around,
brokering. Now the new term is
brokering. That's the new term. Yeah. Same basic thing. Same basic thing. So here's the trick. I want everyone to go back for a minute. Now, again, I've been doing this since 1988 in federal contract. I never heard the term middleman until Clubhouse. And so we're going back now a couple of years. So in 35 years, this term was not a thing until basically 3 years ago. So that should tell you something too, because ultimately what people are doing under the middleman strategy is not new. This is just somebody else's new take, their snake oil approach to spinning this to get you excited about using something that will get you in trouble. That's it. Middleman is not new, but the spin and the narrative that these folks are espousing, it's just a new approach on something that's been there. And again, people have gone to jail. People have lost contracts. People have paid fines for doing things like this every year that I've been in federal contracting.
No, guy, we're just making it up because we don't want them to have any fun. But what I do want people to do is I want them to go look up. Don't look up GAO because that's the actual name of the organization. But look up B-299054 and look at the Continental Staffing Inc. case from January 29, 2007. Yep. And then read the opinion of the judge and the decision and really understand and dissect what was happening there. Now, not to get into that case, I'm not going to get on here to get into a whole case law conversation, but there were some things that they were recommended to do. And a lot of what's in that case is I'm seeing it play out today in real life. So we talked about, I want you to go look at the case, read it. Don't read it with your ambulance chasing attorney. Go find someone who's very knowledgeable in government contracts law and understand it. It is not my job or Guy's job to walk through the FAR with you. We don't get paid to do that. It's your job to understand what you're doing and why you need to be doing this compliantly. Now, I gave you the opinion of a very well-respected contracting officer. Again, go to my page, go to Guy's page. We both have it posted. You can read it for yourself, and you can see the people that are commenting and chiming in on this conversation. I do encourage you to do that. Go and look and see what the person said. Like Guy said, trust but verify. But in the event, this is what I want to do. In the event that you, honest prime contractor, have submitted a well-written proposal to the federal government and you have lost your bid to you who you believe to be one of these middleman executioners, one of these middleman strategists. This is what I want you to do. I want you to, number one, I want you to protest the bid. And I want you to tell the contracting officer, I think they're in violation of the limitations of subcontracting clause, and give them the 4 clause. And the federal government is going to ask them to provide proof. How many people are actually with the prime versus subcontracting staff? And they want to see real numbers and employee count. Not, I believe that what's the good one I heard, guy, program management is 50% of the job. I ain't never seen what program management was 50% of any job. And when you do build, it might be a quarter of the contract at best. Unless the contract so large where you have a full-time dedicated program manager and deputy program manager. At that point, we're talking still hundreds of millions in revenue, and we're still talking less than 1% of the actual total spend on the contract. So good luck with that. Second thing you can do is you can do a small business side determination request. If they're doing this similarly situated firm, most of the folks who actually even do that don't do it right. And the companies are not similarly situated. The next thing you can do is you can file with the federal government, SBA specifically, to do a check for affiliation. And if they are determined to be not properly affiliated, that small business will be treated as a large going forward. Basically that business is done. Anything else you recommend, Guy?
What I would say is this: if you have information, evidence based on previous history or things like that, I would potentially talk to the government first, have a conversation with the contracting officer or contract specialist involved, and bring it to their attention, and then go from there. And again, protest is your legal right. It is something that you need to do, but you need to use it, obviously, with the best intentions. It's not just because I want to get the contract. You got to. It's a legal action. So I would absolutely understand what you're dealing with, who you're dealing with. If you have a company that is, again, you're going after a landscaping contract, and a company is just a solopreneur out there doing stuff, and whether they're taking vacations every 4 weeks or not is not the issue. If you know that they aren't doing the work, that they're subbing that work out, and the company is not a small business that they're subbing to, that can be a violation on limitations on subcontracting. The other part is you can bring it to the attention of the contracting officers if they are similarly situated. Same deal here. Let the contracting officer know. And you don't want to do it necessarily as a tattletale. What you can do is, you can literally say, hey, look, just so you know, that contract, next time it comes out, we actually have our own team. We have our own staff. The other guys, they don't. We know they sub all that out. Keep this in mind next time. If they decide to act on it earlier than next contract, that's a potential win for you. But bring it up and make the government aware. You're going to have people out there like a Colin McTagg out there and others who are aware of this, who are, knowledgeable in these things, and they will be also on the lookout. And what you hope for is that you're dealing with someone that has that mindset.
Because we have to say this, and we've said it before. We got a lot of newer contracting officers that, quite frankly, just don't know the law. I deal with some of my students where I have to help them educate their contracting officers and specialists, mainly the specialists, in how this game is played. So just because they have a title, I think oftentimes we assume that because they're the title they're in, they know, and they don't always know.
Well, and I'll say this, there has been a lot of change in the contracting corps over the last 4, 5, 10, 15 years. And I will tell you, look, I have a lot of friends who've been in those positions before. Ain't nothing easy about it. It is like being a referee. It's a thankless job sometimes, being in that position, but it's a skilled job. They are perpetual students, always learning processes and methodologies that they can employ. And so it may not be always that they don't know something. It may just be the first time they've seen it. in that context. You may have seen things that they haven't in your dealings as a vendor working with other agencies. And we had relationships with our buyers the years that I was on the sell side doing this, and we would talk to them about stuff because we definitely didn't know the stuff that they knew. But as we progressed, we started seeing more things. We could say, hey, did you know about this? Did you know you could do that? I would bring things to the attention of some of the agencies I supported where their agency had an MOU with SBA that allowed them to do directed awards under the simplified acquisition threshold, which is different, which is a deviation, quite honestly, from the normal course of action. So if you have that kind of knowledge, share it with them. The relationship with the contracting officers should not be adversarial on any level. If it gets that way, then you're in a bad position, regardless of how it started. And so understand these are people. They have goals and dreams just like you do. Don't ever think for a minute that because it's not their money that they don't care, because I will tell you, I don't know that I've ever met one that truly didn't care about the job they were doing and the quality of what they were getting for their customers, how it was being brought in. So just use your empathy, be decent, be real, have conversations, not debates, quite honestly. But all that said, these are the things that if Curtis and I are talking about this topic right now, and you see someone like, Mr. McTagg posting on LinkedIn, just assume that there are others that are aware that this is a thing. So they may be more up in arms, more on the defensive, trying to not go down that road, trying to work around that. And you might end up getting caught in the mix just a bit. And so do your best, present yourself in a way that they can clearly see that you're not one of these middleman disciple companies.
No, I think that's good advice, man. Well, that's all I got for this one. I mean, I don't know what more we can do or say. You're gonna have some folks that are still gonna listen to us, some that are not, and that's their prerogative. But I'm gonna tell you to, as you're out here, be careful, be very careful. I don't want to see any of you guys on the I don't want to see you in the upcoming court cases where you may have heard or come across this information and chose to do something.
So, Kurt, I'm going to add one thing just to finish up with here. And you and I were talking offline earlier about the number of dollars going out through the 8A program. And we talked about this on the set aside earlier about how many dollars out of the $164 billion went to 8A. That's less than 1%. I'm going to put another spin on that right now. And so if we look at the total spend for FY 2023, which if you go into FPDS right now, Federal Procurement Data System, it will come up with $749 billion year to date. That number will change until December 31st when it kicks over. Then we'll see the 90 days of DoD spending that we can't currently see will continue to populate that, and then we'll have a final number. Where I'm going with this is out of that $749 billion, when the government did a sole source, that is justification for other than full and open competition, and when the company was an 8A, there was $33 billion obligated, and most of it was under a FAR clause you would expect to see. All right, talks about FAR 6.302, which is sole source, and specifically I think it's 5.4 that, or 5A2 that gets into specifically the socioeconomic groups. The point I want to make though, however, is this: out of the $33 billion that went to 8A companies, $19 billion of it was not the result of any kind of sole source. So let's start right there. So the 13 and change that was the result of a sole source fell under, let's go see how many different statutes it was. 16 different statutes. So only one of those is the one for 8A. There was another $1 billion that went to 8A companies as only one source, which is different than the 8A statute. All right. So they chose, it's a different burden. Then there were the other ones for follow-on contracts, simplified acquisitions, public interest, and so forth. So you need to pay attention. There's a lot of folks that are hung up on going out, becoming 8A and getting all these sole sources. And in the scheme of things, no matter how you slice it, dollars to 8A companies is a very small amount. Think about it. $749 billion total obligations, 33.7 billion to companies that were 8A. That's not 1%. All right. That's not even 1% of the whole spend. So if you're focusing on these socioeconomics, understand you're missing the bigger piece, because every company that's in the small business program, no matter what socioeconomics you have, in addition to being a small business, you are still a small business. And the government makes the majority of awards to small businesses as a small business. All the other socioeconomics do not rule the roost in that area. So do not forsake the fact that you are a small business concern. And oh, by the way, next time, Kurt, we'll talk about all the agencies that don't even recognize the FAR. All right. And which the Small Business Act being a part of that means that they don't have to do the stuff that maybe HUD or Energy or DHS do. And so you're blinding yourself to work. My advice to everyone out here is, if you're going to come into federal contracting, then create a business that can do work that matters to the government, and then find ways to identify the work that is relevant to you and you to them. Curtis can teach you. I can teach you. We have all different programs that we do to help companies. It's fundamentally your status as a small business is not in the top 5 reasons why anyone is going to do business with you. So it's not to minimize it. It's just to be truthful. That the customers I worked with in the government, Kurt was a civilian, employee of the U.S. government. Or you ask him how many times the conversation came about making an award to a small business as the top, or NAICS coach, or any of that kind of stuff. It wasn't a thing. It's just not a thing. It's about getting the job done. Who is the best type of resource we can use to get the goals that support our mission? That's always going to be most important, no matter what anybody else says to you.
No, facts. All right, guys, before we wrap up, man, I know most of the folks here should know who you are, but for those who don't, tell them how to get in touch with you post this, watching this YouTube.
Absolutely, folks. So my name is Guy Timberlake. My friends call me Go-To Guy Timberlake. You're invited to call me that too. Been in federal contracting since 1988, working in support of the U.S. intelligence community initially, and then defense and defense intelligence most of my career. On the operations side, the first 6 years, business development, capture, and leadership since then. For the last 20 years, my wife and I have led the American Small Business Coalition. We are a membership community providing education, training, and coaching to companies in the federal sector. We work with small, medium, and large companies and government agencies to help them get the job done. You can find me on LinkedIn. There are 2 Guy Timberlakes on LinkedIn. You will see the very obvious difference between us. You can also find me on the website at theaspc.org. That's www.theaspc.org. You can also call me 410-381-7378. Reach out. You have questions, ping me on LinkedIn. I'll get you to the answers to the resources you need.
Man, you are brave. You put yourself. Hey,
look, Kurt, we want them to reach out and get the good information. And if it's something you and I talked about this, if we don't have it, we know who does. All right. Absolutely. And so I will always get somebody to a good resource, even if it's not me.
No, I get it. And I'm gonna go ahead and say this. I know we're still working on some stuff. You will be seeing more collaboration between me and Guy going into 2024. And I'm telling you something, the things that we're planning on programming for 2024, when I feel like I'm pretty great on my own. I don't mean that negatively or I don't want
brother, you are great on your own.
I don't want to brag. And Guy is great on his own. But when we come together, it is poetry in motion. So when we start seeing the promotional videos and ads and things we're getting ready to do in 2024, you're going to want to tap in. Now, we do pretty much monthly information sessions I do them on my own right now, but you're going to see, I think, a force multiplication effect when what I do and what Guy does come together. And we're still going to do our own independent stuff, and definitely go support those things that make sense for you. But when you see us do something collectively, you're going to want to be on that online platform or in that live event session when we announce those things going into 2024.
Yeah, and it won't be just me and Kurt, by the way. We're going to bring our friends with us too. And those friends live in government and they live in industry. So, you can always hear from one of us. We always have something we believe useful and productive to share. But we got some really smart friends too. And we're going to give them a chance to get out here and make their mark. And, I'm going to say it, Kurt. Okay, I'm going to put it out there. If Colin McTagg can get clearance to come out and join us on either a podcast or on the road show, would love to have him out there. He can bring his whole posse with him so that they can do a middleman discussion from a contracting professional standpoint. Would love to see that.
Oh, absolutely. And any of our government industry partners or government employee, civilian, or military that want to get involved in anything that Guy and I are doing, you're always welcome. So just a phone call, email, LinkedIn post away. Always going to welcome you in with open arms. All right, Guy, I think that's it for this one. Again, you'll see me and Guy in some future things together. I can promise you that. We've been talking about doing this for well over a year now. So 2024 is the year. We're going to put the pedal to the metal to give you more interesting content and thought leadership. And we want to see you win. We want to see you win. Now, that's going to be all I got for you. What you want to say, Guy?
Let's do it like this. All right. Let's leave it with kind of the hammer at the very end.
Yeah.
All
right.
Okay,
give them the hammer.
Yeah, give them the hammer. How many companies over the last 12 months have you helped realize a level of success? Doesn't matter what it is in federal contracting. If you could put a basic number on that,
I would say 100.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, between our boot camp, between for groups like Women Impacting Public Policy and the Hub Zone Council and the Veterans Institute for Procurement, I have probably touched at least 3,000 people, collectively with all of these things that we do. And I know of those because they're calling me back and they're shooting me notes, which ones are getting traction, which ones are celebrating victories. And this is, I want everyone to know, right? Kurt and I do this for lots of reasons. All right. Money's part of it. We have to provide for our families, things like that. That's always going to be there. But Kurt came from the government and he worked in a part of the government space that was all about mission. All right. Because I was there. All right. I saw the things that he was doing in his company early on. And I come from that world. Again, my birthright to this space was the U.S. intelligence community when I didn't know nothing about any of this stuff. And I have been able to mature since then and learn things. And so if you are interested, and no matter where you are in your journey in federal contracting, because Kurt specializes in working with folks that are new and those who are experienced. I specialize primarily in those that already have some traction, some momentum in the game, up to very experienced companies, 30, 40, 50 million. We can help you. And in some cases, the help we give may be a referral to somebody else we know that can do something that you need. It may not always be about us.
That's true. Part of it is just being a resource. And I'm quick to tell people, you want that, call this person. I'm very honest because I'm more concerned about my brand than making a dollar. And so I may not always be the best fit for you. And that's okay. I'm going to be honest enough to tell you that. And I think I've
Absolutely.
done it. I know guys done it. So I have to give people their money back here. This isn't a money play for me. I have other sources of revenue. This isn't all I do. And in 2024, I may tell you guys while I really teach, and it's probably not for the reasons that many of you all would think. It's not because I make so much money doing this. I'm still very active in the business community. The reasons I might tell them, I might not tell them, guys. But the reasons why I teach are very different from reasons why most people teach. I'll tell them. I'm looking for acquisition targets. I'm not teaching because I want your money. I'm teaching more because I'm buying companies at this phase of my life. And so as I teach, I get exposure to more companies. And there's a certain threshold that I'm looking for in the people I come across. So one of the reasons why I teach is because it puts me in a certain position to get across those companies. And I'm looking for companies to buy. That's not why most people teach. And most folks are teaching for very different reasons. Nothing wrong with that. They have their reasons. My reason is I built companies from the ground up. Quite frankly, I'm over it. So now I'm looking to buy a bigger share of the market. So I talk about exiting. I want companies who want to exit. And so in teaching, it gives me more access to that. And I'm looking for a certain size company, certain type of company. Some of the companies I teach, I will end up later, they may later end up being an acquisition target for me. So I'm just in a different sphere I'm playing in, and it's not the sphere that most people are in. I probably was gonna never ever said that, but you pushed me, guy. And so that's why I
hey, look, let's put it out there, because you know what? Somebody out there might be heading in that direction. You're working with companies, at that exit standpoint. I'm trying to expedite them to get them to the exit. And so, it's a 1-2 punch. It all gels, but there may be those next 2 acquisitions might be watching us right now.
Absolutely. So that's why I love Mindy. So people ask me, if you're doing all this, why are you doing this? Well, I'm looking for acquisition. I recognize you can only grow so fast organically. So I'm in a point where we're looking for inorganic growth versus trying to write 10 proposals to get X amount of return. Now let me just buy into the market. That's where I'm at today. Anything you want to share before we get out of here, guy?
I think we have worn them out, Curtis. I think we have given them so much information that your phone's gonna be blowing up for a long time on this one.
We got a lot of traction from the last one. So I just hope more than anything that the viewers take some real value-added content away from this, and they really think about the strategies they're employing, and more importantly, they really are mindful of where they're getting their information from.
Because look, end of the day, there is a victory here. There is a way to win in federal contracting. You just need to make sure that win is very much aligned to ensuring that what you provide the government is of value. That's it. But there is a win here. We've seen it over the years with so many companies who have come in here and done well for themselves, but they also had a very specific mindset. I'll just leave it at that.
No, fair enough. Well, guys, thank you as always for another value-added conversation. I look forward to what the great things that we have on the horizon for 2024.
2024 is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to look, folks, it's going to be a road show. All right, so look out. Coming to a town, a venue near you this year in 2024. And obviously we'll have all the web content too, but 2024 is going to be a fun year.
I believe so. All righty. That's all I got for you guys this week, good people. I'm going to see you guys in a future video, but go back and watch some of my previous videos, and I look forward to seeing you guys in a future video. And definitely go and check out our course store library and find some content that's going to help you transform and elevate your business in the new year. Till next time.